Look at this eye. It isn't looking at a gun, it's looking at a paradox. In 2004, the Northern Bank in Belfast didn't lose £26.5 million to a bomb or a drill. It lost it to a salute and a biological anchor. Imagine holding the keys to the largest cash vault in the country, and then realizing those keys are made of your family's lives. For 24 hours, 2 managers were transformed into remote-controlled tools of a ghost network. Logic evaporates when the stakes are biological. 1.2 tons of cash. That is the physical mass of 26.5 million pounds. You don't escape with that in a pocket. You need a supply chain. Under the noses of Europe's most militarized police, a vacuum was created in broad daylight. No alarms triggered. An illusion is not a lie. It is a displacement of perception. This is the forensic autopsy of the Belfast Protocol, a masterpiece of psychological domination and logistical invisibility. Welcome to the archive. Stay focused, because the simulation is about to shatter. December 19th, 2004, Sunday night. The system is relaxed, coasting on the inertia of routine. For Chris Ward and Kevin McMullen, the simulation of safety was a fragile glass waiting for a hammer. The masterminds didn't target the vault, they targeted the homes. At their front doors, they were met by authority. Men dressed as police officers utilized institutional bias to gain entry. We obey the uniform before we see the face. Once inside, the uniform dissolved, revealing the cold reality of a high-stakes kidnapping operation. The families were separated. A biological hostage situation creates a psychological cage that no physical wall can match. The managers were given a simple directive. Go to work tomorrow. Act normal. Or the anchor we hold will be cut forever. In forensic psychology, this is known as decision paralysis. When your logic is hijacked by the survival instinct of your loved ones, you cease to be a decision maker. You become an extension of the mastermind's will. The heist had already begun. Monday morning. The bank opens its doors to the public. Ward and McMullen walk through the security checkpoints as they have done for years. To their colleagues, they are managers. To the archive, they are Trojan horses carrying a lethal psychological virus. Inside the bank, the Belfast Protocol initiated Stage 1. Invisibility. No one searches the manager. Authority is a cloak of invisibility in a hierarchical system. Ward carried a sports bag during his lunch break, a bag that contained £1 million in cash. He walked past the security guards. He walked past the cameras. He walked into the busy Belfast streets and handed the bag to a stranger in a car. This was a stress test of the system's hubris. The simulation didn't even blink. Stage 2, the vacuum. After the bank closed its doors to the public, the real extraction began. £26.5 million is a logistical nightmare. It's not just wealth, it's a physical burden that requires a 7.5-ton capacity to move efficiently. The managers opened the service doors. A white van pulled into the loading bay. There were no masks needed inside the bank. They used the managers' faces as their camouflage. Even if the cameras were recording, they saw legitimate work being done. For 6 hours, the vault was siphoned. The attackers moved with the analytical calmness of a team that had rehearsed the heist in a digital twin. Speed is a byproduct of certainty. Every movement was synchronized with the pulse of the city. 1.2 tons of paper was loaded into the van. The weight of the cash was so immense that the van's suspension visibly struggled. But in the dark alleys of Belfast, a heavy van is just another shadow in a city built on secrets. By 11 p.m., the families were released. The managers finally raised the alarm. But the strategic window of invisibility had been open for 24 hours. The police were starting a race against a ghost that had already finished the marathon. The investigation faced a unique obstacle: radioactive cash. Every banknote stolen had a serial number recorded in the Northern Bank's database. The money was a beacon. So, the bank decided to perform a surgical strike of its own. They changed the currency. Overnight, millions of pounds were rendered worthless. The bank issued new designs, forcing the thieves to launder the cash before the expiration date. A mastermind understands that money is just paper, but value is a network of trust and exchange. The laundry variable initiated. The stolen cash was fragmented, filtered through international channels, and converted into property, legitimate businesses, and political influence. 26.5 million pounds left a massive heat signature, but the network was designed to absorb the heat. Jurisdictional friction was their silent shield. The heist was attributed to the IRA, turning a criminal investigation into a political minefield. When you wrap a crime in a flag, the search for truth becomes a search for a compromise. Chris Ward was arrested and charged, but the evidence was a house of cards. How do you prove a man was a collaborator when he was holding the lives of his family in his mind? The legal system failed to categorize the Belfast Protocol. Institutional blindness saved the masterminds. The bank relied on the two-person rule for vault access. But when both people are compromised simultaneously, the rule becomes a double-edged sword. Security is a consensus that falls apart under psychological pressure. Let's deconstruct the human anchor strategy. Most security is designed to stop a man from the outside, but if you own the man on the inside, the walls are merely scenery. The greatest lock in the world is the human heart. The vertical bypass in Belfast was psychological. They didn't go under the bank. They went into the minds of the people who ran it. By controlling the hierarchy, they turned the bank's own protocols into the tools of its destruction. The money was siphoned through a logistical void. The white van moved through the city at a time when police resources were focused on traditional threats. Camouflage is not about color. It's about timing and context. Forensic traces were non-existent. The van was found burned, a ritual of thermal destruction. The masterminds understood that a physical footprint is a liability. By smelting the evidence, they kept the archive's pages blank for decades. Tracking the profit led to shell shadows. The wealth dissolved into the global financial matrix, re-emerging as legal assets. To catch a mastermind, you must look beyond the crime and analyze the duration of the invisibility. The mastermind gap remains in the identities of the organizers. Even with political pressure, the core of the network stayed silent. In the world of criminal IQ, silence is the ultimate currency. It buys you freedom and keeps your logic eternal. Why Northern Bank? Because it was a cash hub with an outdated psychological defense. They relied on trust in a city where trust was a rare commodity. A mastermind finds the point where the simulation is most desperate to be true. The internal audit revealed that the perimeter was breached by the manager's own badge. The system didn't fail. It performed exactly as programmed. The program simply had a human variable that was exploited. Security is a failure of imagination. 26.5 million. Most of it is still a ghost, sitting in offshore vaults or transformed into the very fabric of our economy. A mastermind understands that the best place to hide a fortune is in the open light of legal commerce. Human error is the final forensic signature. But in Belfast, the error was systemic, not individual. The bank didn't account for the biological anchor. They forgot that a vault door is only as strong as the heart of the person who opens it. The shadow logistics of the money laundering. The cash was converted into gold and property. It left the physical world and entered the digital matrix of international wealth. To catch the profit, you must think in 3 dimensions and multiple jurisdictions. The Northern Bank heist proved that the uniform is the target. By mimicking the protector, the thieves bypassed the guard's rational defense. No shots were fired because the brain defaults to hierarchy under stress. This is psychological jujutsu. 1,000 police officers. Millions spent on investigation. The scale of the response is a testament to the magnitude of the embarrassment. When the state is humiliated, it seeks to reclaim its authority through force. But the mastermind was already gone. We analyze the penetration curve. The planning took months. The execution took 24 hours. The investigation took decades. The mastermind's victory is the duration of their invisibility. Time is the final judge in the archive of criminal IQ. The trial was a tactical negotiation. Chris Ward was acquitted. The state couldn't prove the boundary between a victim and a collaborator. In the logic of the mastermind, the gray zone is the safest place to operate. As the millions sit in unknown cold storage, Northern Bank remains a monument to institutional vulnerability. The protocols have changed, but the human variable remains the same. The next ghost is already studying the heart of the keyholder. History is a heavy anchor, but it is never too heavy to be moved by a mind that understands the leverage of silence. The rock remains, the vault is repaired, but the logic of the ghosts who broke it is eternal. We are criminal IQ. Stay focused. Forever visible, yet unrecognizable. The keyholder is the target. Keep your logic sharper than the simulation. Subscribe to the archive. This is Criminal IQ. Stay focused.